Hey everyone, you're listening to Ankur Warikoo on Woice with Warikoo. On this podcast, I talk to you about entrepreneurship, how to grow in life, manage personal finances, handle failures, and a lot more things that just come to my mind. The episode begins. For the longest time, I struggled with giving direct feedback. I felt I was being too harsh. I felt they will feel hurt. They might not like me. They will confront me, and I will not know how to defend. A million things used to go on in my head until I read the book Radical Candor. In this brilliant book by Kim Scott, Kim explains 4 types of feedback and how only one of them is actually effective. And to explain that, she uses 2 determinants. One, do you care personally about the person you're giving feedback to? Whether your friend, your relative, your colleague, whosoever. Because there are often times when you don't care personally about people. And there are, of course, a lot of times where you care deeply about that person. So this is one of the 2 determinants that she uses. And the second one is, are you direct with that person or not? Or do you twist and turn or sugarcoat your feedback? There are people who are direct and there are people who are not. I certainly am not very direct. And I've struggled with that all my life. I still continue to. And the combination of these 2 gave us 4 different options. So when you think about whether you care personally or not, and whether you're direct with that person or not, you get these 4 quadrants. And let's understand them quickly. First one, let's say you do not care about the person that you're giving feedback to. However, you are very direct when you give that feedback. So if you challenge the person directly, but you do not care for that person, it is obnoxious aggression. And we all know how that feels because we have felt it. There are managers who are like that, who couldn't care 2 hoots about who we are, and yet will give us direct feedback around what we have to do. The end result of such an approach is instant defensiveness. And that is how we all react. When someone tells us, oh, this is wrong, this is what you should have done, this is not the right thing to do, you're losing it, you're not doing enough, they certainly don't care about us or our growth. And they're being very, very direct. So we become defensive. And there is very little change in the person. And by virtue of that, there is very little change that one can expect in the person that is being given this feedback. The second quadrant is if you do not care about the person, but you also do not challenge directly. So you instead sugarcoat or you pretend to be all nice and warm. And if that happens, that is manipulative insincerity. We all have experienced that as well. Somebody that we know does not care about us, and yet they pretend to be really nice. And they're never direct. They never tell us what's wrong, but they always tell us, well, there are areas of development, or there are some things which are really nice about you. And of course, there are some things which are not, but let's not talk about them, blah, blah, blah. What happens because of this? There's mistrust. And there is mistrust in everything that they say, even if they're saying the right things anymore. And again, there's no change. Nothing happens because of that. Then you think about the third quadrant. If you do care about the person, but you do not challenge directly, then it is ruinous empathy. Ruinous empathy is when you are being empathetic because you do care personally about the person, but because you're not direct with that person, you are ruining that person and not helping. It results in ignorance because people don't even know what to fix, if at all there is anything to fix, and thus there is no change. This is what I am guilty of for the longest time. It is embedded in my personality that I tend to be ruinous empathetic as against being what Kim calls radical candor. Because it is only when you challenge directly and you care personally about the person you're giving feedback to that it's going to bring in change. Radical candor, or RC, leads to instant change and, needless to say, profound in nature. And when I encountered the concept of radical candor, it just hit me hard because now I had a way of managing my guilt of being harsh towards someone I cared for. So today, before I give feedback to anyone that I care personally, I ask myself these 3 questions that I hope will help you as well in this journey. Question number 1, Am I saying this because I feel anger or frustration? This is something that I was guilty of a lot, and particularly around my Groupon days. During my Groupon days, I was managing India, APAC, and a lot of what I was saying was just simply anger and frustration because the team in the US had no idea what Asia wants or needs. So they were simply imposing the American standard and the American understanding of how things should be done. And in hindsight, none of those remarks ever helped. It just made them more and more defensive, or worse, exercise authority if they could, because they were, of course, at a higher level than I was. And that did not amount to anything but dissonance. So today I ask a very different question. What is it that they know that I do not? Because that helps me see their side and approach it from that direction. And it opens up ways for me to give feedback that's honest and as well direct. Question number 2. Do I want the other person to truly win, or would I feel happy watching them lose? I remember being in situations where I actually wanted the person to lose so that I could pinpoint their mistakes, go one up on them, and thus establish authority the next time I said something. Today, I make sure that I want them to win in their role by whatever I say, because that's what caring personally means. I want them to win. For example, in a relationship, if you were to make a statement which says, "Do I have to always tell you why I'm angry?" That's not helpful. Would you not want the person to win? Because if you do want the person to win, tell them why you're angry. That's it, as simple as that. Because it will only help them get better at what is it you want from them. Instead, if you were to expect that they read your mind, and then if they don't, you accuse them of not being able to do so, that is you going down the negative path. And question number 3, will this feedback help them or help me? Things that I said which in hindsight only helped me and not them was not feedback. It was just my need to express myself. And when I looked at that chart in the book Radical Candor, it helped me a lot because I realized I was just guilty of ruinous empathy. I was saying things because I wanted to express myself, but in no way was I helping the person that I was telling this to. It is my biggest weakness because I still fall in that trap of wanting to help myself because I want them to feel that I'm a nice person, and that is my way of helping myself. And in that process, I ignore helping them. I've come to believe that most relationships falter because they never engage in radical candor. And I hope this helped you realize where you could be going wrong or where someone you know could be going wrong. And you can now, through radical candor, help them see it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Woice with Warikoo. To be notified of upcoming episodes, be sure to subscribe and follow the show on this app right now. Also, don't forget to rate and review the show because that just feels nice. Thank you.